Alright, hey y'all, it's Miss Summers with some video lessons today about rivers and parts of them and how rivers affect the landscape around them. Hopefully you've already done the PowerPoint notes. If you haven't, I would recommend doing that first before watching this video. And if you have, welcome, hi, nice to see you. Let's talk about the parts of rivers and how we name them. Alright, so when we talk about rivers, we're going to talk about their basin or the watershed. Okay, we live in a river basin. We live in a watershed. What that means, watershed and river basin. A river basin is an area of land, a whole big area of land, that water drains off of into a single river. All right, so for instance, we live in the Catawba River Basin. All right, which means if you were to pour a bottle of water on the ground and that water were to run off on the surface, eventually it's going to get to the Catawba River. All right? If you lived in the Mississippi River Basin, which is a huge basin, even if you didn't live close to the river, rain that falls over where you live will eventually make it to the Mississippi. All right? So, how are river basins separated? Why do we live in the Catawba River Basin, but my friend that goes to Mooresville High School, they live in the Yadkin Basin? It has to do with geography. It has to do with something called a divide, okay? A divide, let me get this picture up. A divide is like a ridge, okay? Divides separate river basins from one another. All right, so I have some mountains here, and I have this person lives over here on this side of the mountain. This person lives over here on this side of the mountain. The divide is this peak right here. Okay? Because water follows gravity. Just like everything else in the universe, gravity pulls water downhill. Water never runs uphill. So if it rains over here on this side of the mountain, okay, it's going to rain. Some of that water is going to infiltrate into the ground, right? If it's unsaturated. But some of the water is going to run off downhill that way. If it rains over here on this side of the divide, all right, the water can't make it up the mountain and over to the other side because that's not how gravity works. That water is going to run off downhill that way. So this would be one river basin over there, and this would be a different river basin over here. What's really cool where we are, because we live in Mooresville. All right, if you can imagine yourself, I know it's been a long time since you've been here. If you can imagine leaving school, like if you were in your car and you were leaving school and you were going down Dooley Road and you took a right-hand turn, like going towards the Lowe's and all that good stuff, all right, if you can imagine where the Duckworth is and the CVS and the Walgreens, kind of near where Sonic is, where Williamson Road meets 150, you kind of go uphill a little bit. And then you sit at that stoplight, and as you look out over where, like, downtown Mooresville is, like, towards, like, Mooresville Graded, our friends over there, everything kind of goes downhill. That little area is part of the divide that separates the Catawba River, where we are, and the Yadkin Basin, where our friends live, over on sort of the easterny side of Mooresville. So it's really cool. It's something you can see really easily. All right, so within a river basin, we have different parts of the river. We're going to start at the beginning because that makes sense. You wouldn't start at the end. That's stupid. All right, rivers start in their headwaters. They're headwaters, all right? Headwaters are the start of a river. Generally, headwaters are going to be in mountainous areas because, again, water flows downhill. That's just how water be. All right, so the headwaters of, think about any famous river in the world. The headwaters of the Ganges River, which is the most holy river in all of India for people of the Hindu faith. That starts in the Himalayas, in the Himalayan mountains, where they have that convergent continental boundary. Look at me throwing in some plate tectonic review. All right. The headwaters of the mighty Amazon River. They start in the Andes Mountains, where you have that convergent continental oceanic makes a volcanic mountain boundary. All right, the Missouri River and the Mississippi River. All right, the Missouri starts way out west, actually in Montana of all places. Good old Montana. That starts in the Rocky Mountains. All right, headwaters generally start in the mountains. The Catawba River, our nice little river, That starts in the Appalachian Mountains. It actually starts in a place called Lake James, which is out west just a little ways. If you get up towards the mountains, you can see where the Catawba River starts. All right, so our headwaters in this example, in this river basin, and you know what, before I forget, let me just trace the divide of this particular river. So I don't know if you can see that on the screen. If you were here, it would look a lot better. So just keep that in mind. All right, here's our divide right here, this line. So all the water that falls in this little bowl is going to drain into this river. And you can name this river whatever you want. Let's call it Pogo River in honor of Pogo. Pogo and Stick are, by the way, doing excellent. They're so excited to be in their little summer home for right now. They're doing very well. They miss y'all too. All right, so here's our river basin, here's our divide, here's our headwaters. All right, water is going to fall here in this general area. As the ground becomes saturated, it becomes runoff, and it's going to follow this little stream channel right here. This is our stream channel where the water is going to naturally collect. After we'll wait to put water in this. Once we go from our headwaters, you might notice, and let me move y'all a little closer so you can see. You might notice I've done my best to make these little branches right here. These are called tributaries. A tributary is a smaller stream that adds to a larger river. All right, so all rivers have tributaries. The Catawba River is actually a tributary itself of a river in South Carolina called the Santee River. So the Catawba River actually doesn't go all the way to the ocean. It empties out into another one. All right, the more tributaries a river has, the bigger that river is going to be overall. All right, the more water is going to pass through it. And that makes sense. If you think about the biggest river we have in the United States by discharge, by volume of water, it's the mighty Mississippi. The Mississippi River gets water from the Missouri River, from the Ohio River, from the Wabash River, there's a lot of rivers. There's literally a bajillion rivers. They all are tributaries. They all add to the Mississippi. All right? So we have our headwaters. We go down, we see our tributaries. All right? I'll just show you this before we add water to it. We have our meander right here. So remember, a meander is a curve in the river. We're going to look at how meanders change over time once we add water to it. It's one of those depositional features. All right? And at the end,
if you have any paperwork, schoolwork, anything that needs to be delivered to.
Anybody need any paper delivery? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. We'll get that to you soon. Promise. All right. At the end of the river. All right, we started at the headwaters. We're going to end at the mouth of the river. The mouth of the river is going to be here, and we're going to form a delta right about there. Remember, deltas are called that because they're triangular in shape. The reason they're triangular is because sediments get deposited here because water's starting to slow down as it empties out into a bigger body of water. You're going to get these sediments fanning out. All right, so let's add some water just for the funsies of it. It's not science unless we make a mess. All right, I'm going to add water up here at my headwaters. And you can already see a little bit of erosion going on. Let's add a little bit more water. So anywhere where you see sort of sand falling down, remember that's erosion. That's a movement. My meander totally went away. That's okay. We'll do another meander here in a moment. All right, but let's see if we can get a good delta.
All right, I'm going to try this again. I was told it was not very loud.
Oh, I could hear you, Mr. Babbitt. All right, so we have our mouth of the river right here, and we can see our little fan shape, our little delta, right about there. All right, because sediments get deposited in deltas, All right, those sediments act as like fertilizers for plants. So typically around deltas, you will have a lot of plant life because the soil is so much more nutritious there for plants. So if you think about like the Nile Delta, which there was a picture of that in your notes, that's a prime example of how deposition can be beneficial for ecosystems because they're adding a nutrient back into it. All right. I'm going to make another video specifically for meanders. If you have any questions, you know how to get into contact with me. I look forward to hearing from y'all soon.